Let's bring in Albert Breer. I got a lot of questions. I don't know if Albert's really good, but I don't know if he's got answers to this. The senior NFL reporter and lead content strategist for the Monday Morning Quarterback. Let me start with Deshaun Watson. Where do we stand with Deshaun Watson, given that the Texans are now on their backup quarterback, Davis Mills? If Mills had gotten hurt, Albert, who comes in to play quarterback for the Texans?
Well, what's interesting, Dan, is that, I talked to David Culley about this last week, and he basically said that, like, he's in a good place with Deshaun, and they sort of have an understanding on the way things are going to go going forward. And every indication that you get, now he didn't give me specifics on what their agreement is, but, it does certainly seem like the idea is that he's basically not going to be playing this year, and he'll be in the building, but he's not going to be around the team very much, and he's not going to be part of the day-to-day process of getting ready to play. And so, like, I don't even know if he'd be ready to play on Thursday. So my guess would be, I haven't looked at their practice squad, but my guess would be either they pull somebody up from the practice squad or they get somebody off the street to come in. And again, like, I think that as awkward as this is, Dan, I think for both sides, it's just about preserving value at this time, at this point, where I think the Texans want to preserve Deshaun Watson's trade value. That's the reason he's still on the team. And I think for Watson, it's, it's a matter of sort of protecting yourself in this situation.
Okay, but there's an agreement, it feels like, without.
Yeah.
So the NFL doesn't want him on the field, I'm guessing. The Texans want to preserve his right, or his trade rights. Mm-hmm. And then Watson probably, like, you want to pay me $10 million to not play, then great. Yeah. So it's, right? Is that what's going on here? Like, it's like a secret
for the most
agreement?
Part, yeah. So, I mean, like, really, if you want the crux of why he's still on the roster and they're in this situation to begin with, it's because Nick Caserio is not taking less. He's not going to take 50 cents on the dollar. And, like, until somebody steps up and offers the Texans what they would have been able to get in January or February or March, I don't think they're moving him. And, I think look, Nick knows this is his Herschel Walker, right? Like, and when it comes to building the franchise out, this is the most valuable piece of capital. I'm not, like, I hate to refer to a player that way, but that's what it is. Like, in this situation, it's the most valuable piece of capital that he has in the building to build the roster back up. And even if he were to trade him now, like, when's he using those picks? Not till April anyway, right? So, like, why would you take less now when there could be clarity 3, 4, 5 months down the line, and you get a whole lot more for him, especially when you're in a year when you're rebuilding to begin with. So, I think once Deshaun and Culley came to kind of a comfort level with where they are, as awkward as this has been for the last 6 months, I think that there's sort of an agreement there that the Texans really just aren't going to move him right now. And until somebody, whether it's the Dolphins, the Panthers, the Broncos, the Eagles, any of the top teams that we've talked about, steps up and makes the sort of offer for him that they would have been able to get before the 22 lawsuits were filed, he's not going to be moved. And, I know that's not preferable for Deshaun right now, but, I do think that at the very least, where this was really sideways 2 or 3 months ago, I think David Culley's done a nice job of at least managing it where it's not affecting his team on a day-to-day basis.
Can you explain the Cowboys clock management yesterday in LA?
It's interesting. I talked to Greg Zuerlein after the game, and, I asked him, I said, hey, like, did you feel comfortable kicking from 56? He said, like, yeah, I'll do what the coaches asked me to. He said, well, did you talk to Mike McCarthy or John Fossil, their special teams coach, either before the game at the half, like when you guys got the ball back, about like how far you were good from? And he said, no. He said, I go out there, and the way that we've always done it. The special teams coach was with him with the Rams for a lot of years. He said, like, they have confidence in me. They know how far I'm good from, and we're good. And so, like, that was the funny thing about it, was like Zuerlein literally, like, told me he was literally standing there a lot, like, as the clock was ticking down 30, 20, 10, like, literally was like, okay, I guess I'm going out there now, And so it was a weird circumstance, but I do know, like, the fact that, he nailed a 48 yarder the week before, a big one again in Tampa. Down the stretch of that game sort of played into the decision making. And obviously Fossil having all of that background with Zerline did too. So I just thought it was funny that, because you see some teams like all the Belichick teams, right? It's like before the game, it's like a science figuring out how far your kicker is good from. And McCarthy and Fossil just sort of let this ride. And, in a funny sort of way, Zerline told me it kind of instilled some confidence in him that he knew that they had that sort of confidence in his ability to get the job done.
Well, also the game was tied.
Yeah, and that's the other thing. Yep.
Worst case scenario is, you go into overtime. Trey Lance did not play. Mm-hmm. Was that by design?
I think it was a close game. And I think more competitive than some people thought it would be. I also think that the opponent's always going to play into this, Dan. And part of it with the Eagles, there's not a lot of, there's not like really a book written on that coaching staff right now. And so not only do you have a new head coach in Nick Sirianni, you got a new defensive coordinator, Jonathan Gannon, who'd only coached one game. And he's got one of the best defensive lines in football. It's aging a little bit. And I know Brandon Graham got hurt in game yesterday, but that's still one of the best defensive lines in football. And so, I think so much of getting Trey Lance in there in spots is about making him comfortable, right? And let's slowly ramp him up. It's actually what the Niners did with Colin Kaepernick all those years ago, playing behind Alex Smith. And so, if you think that it's a disadvantageous situation for the young guy, you're not going to put him out there. And I think it's also a sign. And I know people don't believe the Niners when they say this, but I think it's a sign that they do have confidence. When healthy, Jimmy Garoppolo can get the job done for him. And, I know Jimmy feels more comfortable in Kyle's offense than he ever has before. And he feels like he's playing his best ball. And so yesterday was just about winning that game. And, that's what Kyle's maintained each one of these things is going to be about is just winning that game. And they didn't need Trey to win the game yesterday. And they felt like maybe the spot wasn't a great one for a young guy to get thrown out in.
We're talking Albert Breer, senior NFL reporter for the Monday Morning Quarterback. Were the Jets irresponsible yesterday with Zach Wilson?
I have a hard time with this one because I listen to this number, Dan. All right. And this is just kind of comparing and contrasting the two situations. Mac Jones faced, I think it was 12 third downs yesterday, right? 16 the week before. Okay. That's 28 for the season so far. Only 4 of those third downs have been 3rd and 10 or longer. Think about that. Only 4 through 2 games has he been in 3rd and 10 or longer. So what I saw on one side was the Patriots very carefully managing their quarterback and trying to build confidence in him and saying, you got a good team around you. We've got a good running back behind you. We've got a good defense on the other side. Max still hasn't played from further down than a single possession. And they're making it easier on him. Whereas the Jets, it just feels like they're in this spot now where it's like, all right, kid, go win the game for us. You know what I mean? And part of it's the place the roster's in and everything else, but so much of that goes into how a young quarterback develops, And so I know what you're saying. You're asking, should they have yanked him, right? Should they have pulled him out of the game? And maybe they should have, because maybe it wasn't good for him from a confidence standpoint to keep going out there and throwing it up the way that he did. But I think a lot of it sort of speaks to, maybe a first year coaching staff. I think they have to learn how to manage the game a little bit differently. And I think they have to learn how to protect their young quarterback and keep him out of those situations where he feels like he's got to go win it. And, I think if he is in those sorts of spots enough, he could develop bad habits. So I think they have to be careful with it.
The taunting rules are interesting.
Interesting or awful?
Well, they're awful.
Yeah.
But there's an etiquette to taunting. You have to kind of taunt away from the guy you just beat, basically.
Right.
It feels like I hate rules that are open to interpretation. It just gets into that gray area where we as fans go, wait, what happened? Or why'd you call that?
Was it Jared Cook, the one who, I think Jared Cook went up and did the stirring thing, right? Was he the one and I think that was the touchdown that got overturned, right? Because of the illegal shift at the end of the Chargers Cowboys game. And I was watching that, and Jared Cook's been in the league for 10 years. He's a pro. It's not like some young guy who didn't know how to act. You know what I mean? And he got up, bounced to his feet and gestured that really quickly. And it obviously didn't wind up having an effect on the game because the illegal shift sort of superseded the taunting foul. But I'm sitting there thinking to myself, like I don't know that he knew the other guy was going to be standing right there when he got up and did that. It was just a reaction of emotion. And wasn't that what like we were trying to green light like a year or two ago when they changed the celebration rules, right? So if you're a player right now, like how confusing is that? Do you have to like before you get up and celebrate, you have to look around and make sure somebody's not there? And then and then you think about it and it's like how much judgment goes into this. Well, okay, like how come that's okay, but or that's not okay, but Lamar Jackson somersaulting into the end zone. And I think Lamar was fantastic last night and the best story of week 2, probably. But like, how is it okay that he's somersaulting into the end zone and Jared Cook's like just bouncing to his feet and doing a small little celebration isn't, you know? I just like, I just think that this is like they're opening Pandora's box on this one.
Yeah, I know.
And if you're a player, it'd be so easy to be confused by this because a year ago they were telling you, go nuts, do whatever you want. We want you to play on emotion. We want you to be happy when you score. We want you to be, pumped and celebrate with your teammates when you make a big play. And now they're turning around and say, oh yeah, but like we're going to draw these imaginary lines around everything that you're allowed to do.
What's different about Kyler Murray this year as opposed to last year?
I had a really interesting conversation with him during training camp, Dan, and he basically said flat out to me, I have never lost so much in my life as I did the first 2 years of my career. And it's interesting because you think about him in high school, he never lost a high school start, won 3 straight big school state championships in Texas, right? Then he was a spot starter at A&M, and I think he might have lost a game or two his freshman year, but he goes to Oklahoma and he wins the Heisman, and I think they lost 1 game that year. So here's a guy in 7 years of football, started maybe 1 game that he lost. And so, just that discussion I had with him was really interesting in that it really aided him. And I think, having talked to Cliff about it yesterday, Cliff made it sound like he really took it to heart. Like he took it personally. Like this isn't about what's around me. This is about me. Like I'm the quarterback and those losses go on my record. And so this offseason, he took more ownership of the offense. And so much of it, I think, and Cliff was looking to make the team to build some maturity into the team and bringing in guys like AJ Green and JJ Watt and Rodney Hudson. And like, while all that was going on, like Cliff really noticed Kyler was sort of taking ownership of the entire thing. And so that meant, having his teammates at Texas to throw in April and May and, having another throwing session in Arizona for the guys who couldn't make it there. And, I think what you've noticed and what you see now is a guy who's more comfortable out there playing within Cliff's offense and understanding what he can and can't do in the NFL, but also a guy who's so competitive and had, I think, lost, who wasn't happy with the results of his first couple of years in the league and really kind of took responsibility for the losing in Arizona, even if he wasn't personally responsible for all of it.
Great to catch up with you as always. Thanks for joining us, Albert.
Great. Thanks, Dan. Have a good one.
That's Albert Breer. You can read the Monday Morning Quarterback. It's online, senior NFL reporter, lead content strategist.